Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review a new movie, a new release movie from this year called Guilt. And it is a small film, just like Entropy, which I also reviewed this year, and I was just kind of in the mood to review some more new release movies instead of just doing ranking videos and TV reviews, because once you do the same type of video over and over, it kind of gets a little old. So this was a little refreshing. The film was basically about this woman who returns home from college because her sister committed suicide, apparently, even though there was nothing really wrong with her. And the main woman, she's schizophrenic, but then there might be more to it than that. And so it's kind of like a question of who killed the sister really. And then other people start getting killed or disappearing. And, there's not really much to spoil at all. I mean, I could probably even tell you the plot, and then you'd be like, eh. Because the plot is really basic. It's very bare minimum. And, I'm going to start off with what I liked about the movie, though. So, oh shit. How did that happen? Okay, never mind. That isn't relevant to the video. I just looked at my nail and I felt it and it broke in half, and I was like, how did that happen? I don't remember breaking my nail in half. So, one of the things that I liked about the movie, it had a distinct look to it, which normally I would criticize about these modern films and their ugly ass, suck all the color out of it look. But this movie actually had a stylish color palette to it, to where they were doing it kind of on purpose, and I thought that it looked really cool. It was this blue type of color, so it had a stylish look to it. I like that. I like movies that do that have a particular color palette, to do that on purpose, not just to suck all the color out, because that's modern color grading. They actually had a reason to be doing that. So, another thing I liked, there was some good music. It wasn't great music, but there was some, good music that kind of held things together in a way where, there's lots of other films this year I can't even remember the music, and I can't even really say that it was good and it fit the film. So if I can say this has good music, that means it's not it's probably in the top 10 of music that I've heard this year for new releases. So that's something. Although there were some spots where, I don't know, there were a lot of times in the film, and I know that in order to do sound, you put a layer at the bottom, which is just blank noise. And the problem is that, most of the film, the blank noise is almost just as loud as the voices. In the background, like you're hearing the sound of a vacuum going on in another room close by. And so it has this weird, I don't know if that was another creative choice, because that's the thing, when you have these types of, this movie wasn't made for a lot, and so, maybe it was just how the sound was. And when you have sound problems like that, it's best to just kind of work it into the story. And so I kind of felt like it was a little bit of an additional atmospheric quality to it. So, other than that, it was still kind of weird because, like, every single scene almost, you would hear that, but then the music would cover it up. So, whatever. Another thing I liked, I would say the movie was okay. It was pretty in the middle. It had a lot of great things going for it, but it didn't really use a lot of those great things to its advantage. That will get into my food rating for the film, because it definitely isn't the greatest film I've seen all year. However, I don't regret renting it. I mean, I would definitely suggest to just go on Amazon and rent it for like $1. I think it is $1 or $2 to rent this movie. It's really not bad. It's pretty just average. I think another problem. Okay, now and I will say the cast is fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic in like a way where the acting, some of it was pretty bad. Bad in a good way, if you know what I mean. Like, there was this part near the end where the main actress, they're telling her, okay, so it's been, I don't even know how to make myself sound like they sound like in these movies where they're just so like, okay, we have decided you're going back to the place with the demon. And that's right, there's a demon, so this movie ends up being about a demon. It's like The Exorcist a little bit. Just the fact that there's a demon and there's exorcists and stuff. And then the main actress is like, keep in mind, she knows that this demon is dangerous. It kills people. It takes them hostage in the spiritual realm. It possesses people. And she's just like, if you say so. And I'm not kidding when I say I laughed out loud at that line delivery. Like, it was just the most, like, it was the funniest line delivery I have heard all year. I mean, the whole scene, she's learning about this demon, and she just kind of sits there with this blank expression, and it is just the funniest thing ever. I mean, some of the acting in this movie, and then and all the acting really at the end gets really, really funny, to where I would almost say this movie did remind me of The Room. I mean, if you guys are looking for a movie that's similar to that, this isn't as great as The Room. But it is very similar in terms of the pacing, the acting, somewhat. But I really did like the cast. I mean, I didn't think that the cast was a problem. I mean, this cast had a lot of cake. I mean, that's the greatest thing about this movie, is the fact that, this movie is, the ingredients are better than the actual execution. It's basically like a fully stocked bakery in this movie with the people that they got to play these characters. I mean, it is just the greatest cast I've ever seen in film history. I mean, I'm trying to think of a cast in a movie that is better than this. I literally can't. That's how good of a job they did at casting this movie. Okay, they literally, I don't know how they found them too. Like, I don't know, like, where you got these people. Like, just, they found the thickest people possible. And they're like, hey, we need to make a movie for the thick people. And the people who and so that's what this movie was. Like, to me, it was basically like totally distracting, because the story was just so dull and it was so average that I found myself just completely distracted and just unable to even think about, like, oh wow, there's a demon somewhere. Oh wow, that's scary. So, getting into the things that I didn't like now that we're done talking about the juicy mamas in the film, which, let's just go down the line. Okay, we have the main character. She is like a, let's see. I'm trying to think about portion size. Okay, she is like a caramel triple layer cake. And it's so bad that for the majority of the film she has like a hoodie around her waist so that you can't even see it. And so it's like, even she knew, or the costume designer knew, and they're like, oh no, this is too spicy for a 2022 movie, because, this movie obviously didn't have anything in it. That's one of the problems, is that at the end of the day, when you watch a horror movie, you want to see nudity and violence. You don't get any of that really in this movie. That's one of the downfalls about it. But it isn't a deal breaker for me because it's still a passable film. I mean, I would definitely watch it again. It would have been better to watch around the Halloween period, though. I will say that. And then, okay, you got the main character. She is queen thickness. And then you got her friend. Her friend is basically like, she is like, let's see. What types of cakes are there? Let's look up. Let's look up now. Actually, no, let's not. That'll take too much time. She is like a marble cake with thick layers of chocolate frosting. And she has this like haircut too. She has the greatest haircut in the film. And the main character, she's kind of mad at her, and it's like she's jealous that she's marble cake and that she's not caramel cake. And it's like, well, there's different types. It's a bakery, and they can't just sell one type of cake. They'd be out of business. Or no, they wouldn't. That's stupid. What does that even mean? Okay, then you got, and it's like, okay, you already have two people. I mean, keep in mind, guys, they're special. Then you have the psychiatrist. She is like a Brooklyn blackout cake. She rivals them both in several ways. And it's like, but we never really get to see her very, very well, and so it's kind of like, it's kind of debatable. Then you have the main character's mom. She is like a confetti cake with a shapeliness and a just perfectly decorated. And then you have the then you have the detective, the actual police detective, not the private detective. You have the detective woman, and she actually looks like she's been in something big. I mean, for some reason I thought at first that I had seen her in something else. She is like, wow. She is like a coffee cake, like an old-fashioned coffee cake. And it's like, how can you go wrong with this cast? It's like, just give me some ice cream and I don't even need a spoon or a fork, like, just that's it. So there you go. Like, that's the main attraction to this movie. As soon as I saw the main character, and she's like, and I was like, okay, we're this isn't gonna be boring. Okay, this is gonna be very entertaining. it's gonna, regardless of the fact that it doesn't have any violence or any scary things in it. It's just very like bleh, you know. Okay, so now let's talk about the negatives. So, first off, you got this character who's like he's like a private detective, but he also used to be like an exorcist or something, and so he's a paranormal investigator too, and he's bald, and he has this tattoo on his neck that's like angel wings, and so they show that first for his character, and it's like a pretty goofy little thing. They show a close-up of that, and it's like, ooh, this is like some epic character. And in reality, he's basically just Private Detective Caillou. I mean, the whole film I knew I was going to be calling him Detective Caillou, because he was just so generic, and really everyone in the film was generic. Their characters were very, like, I'm here to do the scene, and then I'm going to get my scene from my demo reel, and then I'm going to get paid, and then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to watch a better movie than this, and then I'm going to repeat the cycle all over again. Like, that's basically like the vibe that I got from the characters. Every single character in this film somehow had the same level of voice, the same, like, just everything about them was so similar that it was like watching Halloween 3, except you didn't have any, like, characters who weren't robots. But still, I like the actors, though. I mean, I don't think it's really the actors' fault. I just think that the story, you know, there's not really much, there's nowhere to really explore. You know, I already explained the story. It's a very, it doesn't really go anywhere interesting. You know, they want to get rid of the demon because at first the detective is going to blame the Queen of Thickness for the killings, and it's like, oh no, don't let her go to prison, please don't, no, keep her in the bakery, please. Prison bakeries are bad. You don't want to know what happens in prison bakeries. Okay, so what happens though is like the most stupid thing ever, because the demon, there's this whole thing with, like, the demon only attacks people that the main character is mad at, and there's this whole thing with she's mad at her best friend for something that's not real because of her schizophrenia affecting things. And so that was sort of what they were trying to do, I think, was trying to tell this really basic story, but add in the schizophrenia element to it. It's just too bad that it wasn't more involved in the film, because, you know, I'm thinking about Monk, and I'm thinking about, you know, that in that show, his illness was very, very much the focus of the show. Like, even more so than the actual mysteries and the cases, and it worked very well. You know, and it's too bad that in this movie that they didn't really go full balls to the wall with schizophrenia, because I really wasn't even sure, like, I know what schizophrenia is, but I really wasn't even sure exactly what was and wasn't schizophrenia, because then there's the fact that, you know, it's a demon that's haunting her because of her grandfather being an exorcist as well, and so some of it you could say is actually the demon causing these hallucinations and nightmares. And so they do have a couple of nightmare sequences. They're not very scary. And just in general, the film, what ends up happening is that her grandfather comes back too. And they try stopping this demon who has now possessed her mother, and the father has disappeared, and the demon took the dad somewhere. And what they end up doing is basically like a cop-out, where the grandfather allows the demon to possess him so that then they can just kill the dad and the demon will be gone. It's like, is that really how it works? Like, wouldn't the demon just go to the person nearby? Like, wouldn't the demon just, you know, just float to the nearest person, like the nearest cake in the bakery? Like, that's what I would do if I were the demon. And by the way, the demon in this movie is named Vine. And all I could think of was the app, or whatever it was, Vine. You know, I never used Vine. I don't even really know what Vine is. But that's just what it made me think of, was like, oh wow, there's a demon that's like... They should have had that. I mean, that would have been kind of funny. If like, oh, Vine is gone off of the internet, and so what happened was all the negative energy on the Vine app turned itself into a demon named Vine. And so now the demon will be alive forever due to them not performing the correct ritual when they deleted the Vine, whatever it was. I mean, what is Vine? Does anyone know what Vine is? I mean, I heard that it was like short videos, and that's what makes it even funnier, because the demon in this film, she's only in the film for like 2 seconds. And so it's basically she's in the film for the amount of time that is like the max time for a Vine. And so that's what made it even funnier, was like she was only there for this tiny little amount of time before grandfather cop-out does his little thing. And now, after that, it's even weirder, because Detective Caillou Detective Caillou, he actually acts like it's a victory, and him and Queen Caramel Cake, they did a great job together. And it's like, what did you guys even do? You just stood there while somebody else did like a cop-out maneuver, and so that they actually set it up where they're going to go around like the Warrens from the Conjuring series and go around busting demons and busting ghosts. And I thought, like, really? I mean, they weren't even capable of doing this one. Like, there should have been some sort of a situation where they could get rid of the demon without the grandfather having to get possessed and then die. You know, like, that really was not a victory, and it was not something that they were responsible for manipulating into a victory. And then they kiss, and it's like, oh. Like, that's the reaction I had, was, oh. Like, it was just so, like, out of nowhere. Like, just because they're together on screen the whole film means that I guess they have chemistry together, which I don't know. Like, I've seen chemistry when I've put together audition tapes. So, I can definitely see it when it's there. But I can't really see it here. And so it was kind of awkward, because it was so forced too. Like, they just kissed like once, and then she's like, ugh, I'm glad that's over with. And she looks at the camera, and she's got this like scowl on her face, like, ugh. Like I hope for the next take he fucking eats an icebreaker or something. Like, no, she didn't look like that, but I'm just like, it was just like this one little one, even though like it was supposed to be some romantic moment. And I just thought, like, put this together with like a clip of an old 1940s film where the main leads kiss, and you can just see like the contrast in society. You can sort of see the downfall of society and that one kiss, like just the lack of anything. And then that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that then we see her in the bathroom, and she, I think maybe we see the demon for 1 second, so I guess it's still there or something. I don't know. And then the private detective Caillou comes in, and he's like, "Is everything okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." And that's literally the end of the movie. I mean, there are definitely some things to have fun with. You know, it's not like it's the end of the world, these issues, and it's not like it's a terrible movie. It's just fun to talk about this stuff and to not take it so seriously, because, you know, with these bigger movies, there's a lot more expectations, and so, you know, this movie, I'm not saying it was terrible. It was just pretty in the middle. It also, one of the issues was that it reminded me of an X-Files episode, so it's the second movie this year that reminded me of an X-Files episode. It reminded me a lot of a really good one that I loved, and it's called The Calusari, and it's all about this kid, and the whole episode you think he's evil, and you think that he's killing people with powers, and then it turns out that he had a twin in his mom's womb, and the twin is like demonic now, and it's killing people, and it's alive still, and so they end up having to perform an exorcism, and it's just so much better. It's actually really scary and really creepy, and I would say that if they watch that episode, they probably get some better ideas for making this movie to begin with, like just in terms of horror has become now a blank palette of ideas, whereas horror used to be code for certain things. You know, when you went into a horror movie in theaters back in the 80s, the 70s, you know, you probably expect these certain things. Like, it's like, what if you went to an art gallery and you saw these beautiful paintings with all these colors and all these like vibrant, splashy pictures, and then you go to that art gallery 10 years later and you just see like a frame with a white painting with a little tiny splotch of gray, you know, like in that, I think that was like the one in the Daredevil season 1, where they called it like the rabbit in the snow or something. Like, that's what it's like. It's like horror has totally changed for the worse. Like, the fact that you can't, it's like, I really wish that there was a horror movie now that had on the cover, "Come here for real horror," because I would know, okay, this movie's going to have nudity, it's going to have violence, it's going to have scares, and it's going to have on-screen kills. That's the checklist. Like, no matter what the idea is, no matter like if you think you're smart and you have this like really elevated idea, that's the checklist when you make a horror movie. That's the checklist that everyone should have. And if they fulfill that checklist, they should have on the cover, "Come here for real horror." So overall, I think I put this like, I think it might be in like 20th place, or like it was a little bit above the middle in terms of ranking movies for the year. And I'm just talking about it now because I definitely won't be able to mention it in the top 10 video, since I'll be talking about so many other movies. So I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend it. So now let's get to the food review. You know, I thought of the perfect food review as soon as I went on to Letterboxd to see what other people thought of the film. So let's say you have all the ingredients for a classic cheeseburger dinner. You have potatoes, so you can make fries. You have the burger meat. You have cheese. you have vegetables, and you have condiments. Now, obviously, a smart person, well, and I'm not saying these people aren't smart, I'm just saying the people in the hypothetical food rating scenario aren't smart. So let's say you're smart, you're going to make a cheeseburger dinner. You're going to make cheeseburgers with fries. Like, that sounds really delicious. Well, instead of that, these people, they decided, let's take all of these ingredients. Or no, let's not take all of these ingredients because we want to have a minimalist dinner tonight, honey. And so let's take all those ingredients and let's put them in a piece of tinfoil, and then put the piece of tinfoil over a fire. Like a campfire, like you're going to camp, like you're a Boy Scout, you're in the Boy Scout club going to camp, and you got your little hobo dinner, you got your little hobo, what do they call that thing? Where you have the burger meat and the onion and the carrots and gross. I can't believe I actually ate that when I was younger. And then the potato pieces, and you just cook that over a fire, and then you eat it, and you just feel like, yeah, okay, this was, it was okay. Like you just kind of like smile and chew. It'd be a lot better if you were a hobo eating it than you're just a person who can afford to, make a cheeseburger dinner. So that's what this movie was. It was a hobo dinner special that you grill on top of a campfire. So I can't wait to watch these actors in another film. I really hope that they reunite for a sequel so that we can get more cake, and it can be called Night of... I can't remember, but I put the title on the picture. So, and okay. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of Guilt, and then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye everybody, see you soon.